Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is Monday, June 17th, 2024, and this is the Daily AI Show live. And today we are coming to you talking about the top 5 business use cases for custom GPTs. And with us, we have Beth, Junmi, Andy, and I'm Brian. And we wanted to do this topic today because, I had made a comment on a previous show that then got comments on it. And I was just saying, but Andy, you and I were talking, and I was like, I probably have I don't know, built in currently use about 20 different custom GPTs in business. And if you break that up into spots, there's custom GPTs that I use for business for me personally that I have not shared. I wouldn't have a reason to share it. It's a process thing for me, but not necessarily anybody else. Then there's custom GPTs that I built that our company at Scaled uses internally. And then of course there's custom GPTs that are actually, that people pay for, right? Through Scale, we build them. And then the one level above that is truly customized in the sense that it's custom GPTs that are now on the back end, even fully more customized for a company. Okay. So the reason that I was thinking about this topic, and Beth had brought up something, you had brought up something in the Slack channel, and I thought, that'll be really interesting because all of us are doing different things, although we're all in AI in some way, shape, or form. We're at different points in our career. We're all using custom GPTs in different ways, but they're all, business related to us in some way, or for maybe our clients if we're doing consulting work like what I do and some of the rest of us do. So I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about sort of that top 5 of like, how do we do that? And my reasoning was because the comment I got back was like, oh, I'm not. It was on LinkedIn, and they were like, "Oh, I'm not really using the custom GPTs as much. I know they're there." And then I was having a conversation in the DMs with this particular person, and I was like, yeah, I mean, honestly, now with custom GPTs being accessible by anybody with a Chat GPT free account, you cannot create them, but you can use them. The doors are flung wide open, and we can, I don't know if it's necessary in this conversation to talk about, because we talked about it, Carl, we talked about, right? Like, by the way, Carl's here. We've talked about whether where the custom GPTs might be going and connectors, and, will it be more like a RAG system, blah, 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 all that. But like literally right now, I don't think enough people are giving, this is my opinion, giving enough attention to building custom GPTs that solve problems for you today. Like you build it today and it fixes something for you. It takes a pain away from you. It increases your efficiency. It's some repetitive, repeatable task that you have been doing since you started doing your job or in life or whatever it is. And you would like that to go away. I would like to not have to do that anymore. And so there's this process, right, that we all go through, which is like, okay, can AI take care of all of this today? Check mark, check right. Yes, no, maybe. Can AI take care of some of this today? Okay, great. What step in the process could it possibly take care of? Would it be potential that Carl, you were talking about this last week, we should be thinking about not painting ourselves in a corner, right? So like, okay, is this a step in the process that AI cannot do well today, but I can reasonably predict that AI will be able to do in the future? Because that also will tell you which way to go. So that's sort of a big, I know, like, me just talking here, but that's really where my brain was. And so I just wanted to share that as a starting point, because I honestly think businesses aren't thinking enough about using custom GPTs. They don't have to be overly complicated. There are some crazy simple custom GPTs you could build today that will save you, let's say, 30 minutes a week, and just compound that. And now even compound that if more than you can use it at your job. Like that immediately starts impacting ROI. Is what gets me excited, I guess,
Yeah. So for me, this show starts with the quote from Allie K. Miller. It's her pinned tweet on X. And the first part of it says, I run an AI first team. If we've done something 3 times and we think it'll happen at least 10 more times, we make a GPT. Like that's it. That's the criteria.
Yeah.
And businesses are definitely not at that place.
And Rachel Woods has also talked about that. We've seen, of course, we've talked on, but in case you're new to the show, which we do have new people every week, Rachel Woods started a community along with her sister, called a community called AI Exchange. That's where all of us met. That's sort of the nexus. That's where this show started out of. We all met there in a Slack community and then built this show from it. And to be clear, Rachel doesn't have any connection to this show other than that's where we met. We all very much respect her and her brilliance in AI and what she offers. And so she's talked about that too, Beth. Like, it's that AI first mindset of, wait, hold on, do I have to do this myself? Or is there perhaps a better way? You know?
Absolutely. So what and the thing with GPTs and building a GPT is that there's very little downside to it. Right? So you don't have to have another subscription. It's not an API cost. You don't need a ton of code, but if you have a ton of code, you can use it in your GPT, right? Like it's meant for you. There's also a way to build it. I think most of us prefer to build our own instructions, but if you just have a goal and you don't know how to craft it, GPT has you there too. Like it's designed, I believe, as a really low barrier to entry for specific use cases.
Yep.
And that's what we're talking about today.
And look, to be fair too, Beth, it has some drawbacks, right? You do lose because you just said it. It's pretty easy to get going with it. If you know nothing about it, you literally today could be like, that sounds interesting. They were just talking about this. You go to ChatGPT, assuming you have a paid account, you have a pro account, right? You're paying for it, so you can create them, right? That's the bar of entry for that. Again, you can use custom GPTs that somebody else has built now from a free side, and that was not the case more than a month ago. So that's a huge difference. But if you want to build one, and you were just saying about there's the custom GPT builder. It's actually the first screen that comes up. If you go to explore GPTs, create GPT, custom GPT, that's the first screen that'll come up, which is great. I want to build a custom GPT that whatever helps me figure out the best ways to entertain my cat, right? I mean, like, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be complicated, and it'll help you sort to organize what that is. The other side of that is you do lose a bit of customization, which I prefer. I wish there was a creativity slide on there the way we find inside chat on the OpenAI platform, because that would be amazing. I would love to be able to tell a custom GPT with assurance, hey, at this step, I want you to have zero creativity, meaning I only want you to go to the document that I'm telling you to go to, and I am not asking you, lovely ChatGPT, to do anything else. This is an easy lift for you. Go to this document, scroll, find the answer, and give it back to me. And I will tell you that I have run into many, 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 many problems over time as ChatGPT tries to get too smart for its own good and likes to bring in other stuff, other flavors, and you're like, no. I just want this one. I just want you to always reliably give me this one thing. So you do lose a little bit of that customization because it's so user friendly. But that also means there's a lot to build from it.
So if part of our top 5 use cases would not be, we need just one fact-based thing from this file. There are file searchers that are probably better at that than the GPT. But for me, the first GPT that I used was Grimoire, that I started to use really, really frequently. Mm-hmm. And Grimoire by Nick Dobos is a use case where do you need to come up with a little bit of code, or are you being presented with code or some sort of very technical piece of information that is not comprehensible to you? Grimoire has your back. It's also a GPT that can help you learn to code. Like, he's got, I don't know, 85 lessons maybe at this point. And you can just go through lesson by lesson, and it builds you up, and it teaches you Python, and it gives you a bunch of different ways that you can like get your toes wet. But it's also a GPT, so you can have a conversation with it. It's not like the conversation is extraneous to the task, like you're taking a coding course on YouTube or you've paid for it in some sort of Coursera kind of way. No, the conversation with the tutor is the class also. So I think what Nick Dobos does with Grimoire is really exciting. That was the first one that got me hooked.
Let me add something to Grimoire, which is you don't need to be focused specifically on generating code or analyzing code. I use Grimoire. It's one of my 5 but I don't use it to generate code. I'm not actually in the process of trying to, mount an application that requires code level design, but I am interested in product architecture and what are the correct set of coding tools that ought to be used for this kind of application. And so Grimoire is rooted very nicely in broad expertise in code, and also it is GPT-4o, and it can talk about a wide range of other product related issues. So that's the way I use it.
And I would imagine that once we fully get the rollout of voice on our mobile, then that should open up even more, accessibility and ways to use something, any custom GPT, honestly, but like definitely like a Grimoire as well. Because now you can have conversations. Don't forget when you have the full voice and interaction that we saw in the demo from OpenAI now a month or so ago, but hasn't fully rolled out. You can also have that same sort of interaction within a custom GPT. That, and again, it's going to unlock many more levels, secret levels, hidden levels of abilities once that happens. Because yeah, sure, you could just have a one-off conversation, right, Beth? But you could also have a conversation inside Grimoire, and it could be that naturally flowing back and forth, which could be amazing for tutoring, education, all that stuff. Would you guys say that, I'm just curious, this is a question, I'm not saying it's everybody's top 5. Obviously I've heard you guys talk about Grimoire. The other big one I've heard is Mr. Reindeer. Would you say in your experience, because they were early and they're highly both respected, are those sort of like gold standards to you guys in terms of what a custom GPT can be?
I'm gonna take a counter on that, just
Okay.
because what I've been finding with, like, when we go do presentation to clients, the businesses that are using it for their, like, what we're finding is AI use, especially, well, in businesses, is very personalized to a team or individual. So when, like, even the same role could be using, they could be using either ChatGPT, Claude, whatever tool they're using, very, very differently, even the same tool, just because their process is different. And so when I saw it, when we started looking at the different GPTs that were either being created or created, I'm looking at the GPT store and I find, yeah, there are some that you could use, but if you want to, for your business, for your team, for individuals or individual contributors, if they want to improve their process, improve their productivity, efficiency, it has to be really tailored to them. Like, you can't take a GPT that someone's built and say, hey, use that. They're like, well, yeah, I can use it, but it's only 60% of the way there. What I'd rather do is do this and add this and then add this to it. And now I can use it for my use. And so that's where I think I know there was a land rush to try to make it the new app store, but I think just the way what we've seen is the way people are using it, it's very, very, very task specific to their task. So to be able to use somebody else's tool, it may get you there. Maybe like some job applications I've seen, it's no problems. But even then, it's like, well, I don't like it that way. I want to add this, and then now it's mine. Like that. That's how I've seen it be useful to a lot of people, because when I remember when I was introducing, hey, how about try this one or this one's like, no, I don't like that one. I like this one that I built because it's mine and it helps me or helps my team.
Yeah.
I don't have a counter to that, but I was just going to say, yes, I agree with that. However, like with the ones that I've built through Scale, which are sales based, in fact, the first one on my list would be sales based, and it's one that we have. It's a little self promotion, I know, but it's called "Help Me Book a Meeting With." But honest to God, like any business that has sales could find value in that. And my reason for bringing that up as a top business use case is that, to your point, Carl, what I have had to really focus on, because this is an externally facing custom GPT, and I do feel like a lot of them fall flat on here, is that they really don't take in the user experience. they really don't focus enough on that. And so it feels like the custom GPT falls flat because it doesn't give the user, the end user, enough flexibility to maybe use that framework the way they feel best. And so, just as an example, with like helping book a meeting with, there are ways for the end user as they go through the process to mold it to be more to the area they want to. Yes, it's going to help them, focus on the industry, but then sub industry and trends in that sub industry, jargon and personalization to the person and their job title, and all the stuff that's really, really important to get to personalization at scale through custom GPT. But it's got to be in a way that that does work for the user and allows them to have some control. And by the way, that's a tricky thing when you're building for other people, because you have to give enough flexibility that somebody feels like, oh, I can mold this and make it work for me. At the same time, there has to be enough rigidity and structure that it works consistently. It's up for somebody that, as somebody who's built a lot of custom GPTs for other people, that's where my focus is that end user experience. Because if you mess that up, it doesn't really matter how good the custom GPT is,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to be in Carl's camp here, mainly because most of the
No camp.
most of the GPTs I use are the ones that I've created myself. Right? I agree with the personalization side of things. Based on like what Beth said earlier, that Ali K. Miller post is, if I am jumping into ChatGPT or whatever AI tool and I do something 3 times, I want to make a GPT, right? So this solves a couple of things for me. One, I know it's always available, and if there's a problem, I can tweak it. And it's like, oh, it doesn't work this way. I need to add this personal file, right? It would be great if there was not just a public release of of a GPT, but someone could put an open release of their GPT, right? So you could see all the guts, and take the elements of like, oh, that's really smart. I should add that to my own thing. And that's kind of what I saw happen with or my viewpoint on the GPT store. Like you said, Brian, it was sort of to be like an app store or something like that. But I don't think that's the general use, right? It never took off in that concept. It was more of, here is a more powerful implementation of ChatGPT. So you've gone from, here's the normal interface, ask your questions, get your answers, to now I want it to give me specific types of output, or I needed to dig a little deeper. And here's a bunch of examples and files that I need that information from consistently. So for me, I just kept building my own stuff. So like of my top 5, I'd say 4 of them are all task driven, like you said, Carl, and they're all for DAS, right? I use a GPT for summaries. I use a GPT for timestamp of our videos. I use a GPT for extracting the mentions and the URLs that we say in every episode. And then I have a social post generator for, whenever an episode or event's going to come out on LinkedIn. So these are all clustered together. They all are part of that task group. But those are all ones that I created because I have specific data needs, and I need to draw from my information for those. So I think that's kind of where the real strength comes from. And then on the other side of things is, and we've done some recent episodes where we just found that people's uses and or lack of use and knowledge or awareness of AI is mind-boggling a little bit. And so to us, it's like, of course, well, why aren't you using these tools? They're so useful. They cut down so much time. And so I kind of see custom GPTs as a way to exercise or flex that muscle, right? It really helps you understand, especially if you go from the guide to the custom instructions in there, is, oh, this is what they're talking about with frameworks. This is why I use Markdown to break everything up. This is why when OpenAI says you want to trigger and, response or an example, and use that, that 3-step process for every single, iteration that you're going through. and you putting in your own files and accessing these actions, or putting in those API calls and things like that. This is all helps you learn more about the ecosystem and how all of those components work together. So that might be a little technical and nitty gritty for most people, but once you understand how to put those pieces together and how they interact with each other, it gives you a step up, a little more AI literacy on how you can apply AI to your daily life. So I think that's one of the main takeaways that I get from it, is like, this is a great exercise. I want to be able to make more. And I'm sure, Brian, we've been amazed by when we're talking on our back channels and you're like, oh yeah, let's work on that. And you just whip up a GPT. Now, it still takes me a little bit, but I've literally seen you in a conversation, in a meeting, type up a new GPT to solve one of our problems. And that I think is amazing.
Well, I mean, thank you. But I think that's just because it's a bit of rinse and repeat, right? You just said it. The framework starts to be the same, and then you're just plugging and playing, plugging things into the right holes to make it fit and work. So, once you get very comfortable with a rhythm of a framework, then you're just like, oh, okay, well, this is a system, right? The system has steps or tasks, however you want to look at it. Each one of those tasks has triggers, what's going to kick it off, what needs to happen when it does, what's the information or the instructions that need to happen when it kicks off, and if this, then that sort of mentality to it, whatever that system is. That also helps me identify where AI is not going to probably fix the problem, or it's uniquely human or something, because it'll come out in the wash, so that's the way I do it. And like, for people who just want to go through this task, or if you don't have to be a leader, but if you're a leader at a company and you're like, how can I get my workers thinking about AI first mentality and maybe doing custom GPTs and stuff like that? Well, one of the ways you can do it is just through an easy work process of like, okay, let's just take a hypothetical at our job, whatever that job is that business does, and let's talk about this process. Let's pick one as a team. You could do it in a Slack channel. It doesn't even have to be like a meeting per se. And like, okay, first up, what are the 7 steps or 6 steps, or how many steps does this process have? Great. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. Like, how does this work today? Okay, well, we have to do this, then we have to do this. And you can't do these out of order because this one builds on that one. Okay, great, whatever. Or maybe they all can be done concurrently. That changes the way a custom GPT would be. And then you just sort of work through that framework or process. And then you say, never mind a custom GPT. If I handed this to somebody that was generally knowledgeable, going back to that idea of a smart intern, would they be able to, in fact, follow these directions and come out with a decent result? Not saying it would be as good as another employee who has knowledge of that particular system, right? You have an expertise. That's different. But if I just handed it to somebody who was reasonably intelligent, who understood your business enough, could they, in fact, follow these directions and get the results you're looking for? If you can get in that mindset, you can build custom GPTs from now to the end of the week. You could just keep coming up with more ideas and more ways. And that's what I want to inspire people who are listening to this to do, is like, get out of your own way. And I mean that in the nicest way, but get out of your own way, because you're probably not building custom GPTs because you think this is some big process. And I'm saying, no, it's not. You don't need to know how to code. You don't even need to know how to write your first custom GPT. Just go use the builder and explain in detail what you're trying to get done. And then to your point, Jimmy, flip over to the configuration side of it and see what it wrote for you, because it does expose and show you what it wrote and go, oh, I get what it's doing. The builder is laying it out like this. And there's an act as, and there's a role and all this stuff. So anyway, I think we should, for the sake of the show here, let's get to our top 5s and stuff like that of what we're doing. Now, to be clear, this is, Jen just said Taylor Swift GPT coming up. I love it, Jen. I would love to see that, by the way. If you build that, that'd be super cool. It may exist. Who knows? For the show. So this isn't like, we've done a show like this before. This is not necessarily a collective top 5, because again, we're all coming at business from different angles, different parts of our life. So this is just like our individual top 5, and we'll see where there overlays. I think Beth and Andy, you both said grimoires, it would be on that list for both of you, right? So there's an overlap there. Okay.
Yeah.
I got nods. Just
Really
nods.
helpful for a
I like
podcast. Sorry.
I'll relay it for everybody else. So I don't know, Andy, do you want to kind of get into your list a little bit more and what you have and maybe just a quick why on why you have it on your list?
Sure. First, a prefacing comment. What Carl triggered in this long discussion that we just had is the distinction between going to the store and finding a GPT that's been tuned in effect to do some specific task, but generally for you, not specific to your corporation. And those that you need to customize with your corporate data, your brand voice, etc. So among the top applications in business for AI, you have content creation for marketing and sales. That has to follow the brand voice and has to understand what your products are. And so a custom GPT needs to be filled up in its knowledge base with information about your product. If you go to one of the hundreds of marketing and SEO things that are on the store, it won't know anything about your product. So in your session, you're going to have to upload information about your product in order to get it to respond to that specifically. Another one that is really an important application in companies is search, natural language interaction search against your company information. That can be used for customer support, but also just for internal use. And that's where Carl's point is totally valid, which is, hey, we need to make a custom GPT for you, your company specifically, and we're uploading your corporate documents so you can chat with Chat GPT 4.0 about your company. All right, so now I have one on my list that is something I built. It's called Sales Pitch Pro. This is about sales messaging and or product positioning. So a lot of times people send me something, hey, what do you think about this? And they have some kind of presentation about their product. And I put this into that custom GPT and it refashions it, summarizes, compacts, presents in a more, I think, clear and concise way what the product positioning and what the messaging ought to be for sales. In effect, it generates at the end of that a sales sheet for whatever that product was that was presented to me. And that's been very useful. The other ones are ones that I use that other people have made. So they're not specific to any product or a piece of information that I've supplied to it. Product GPT, it convert your any idea into a detailed project document along with features, personas, time estimates, and UI wireframes. That's a very cool thing that somebody out there has built, sitting in my left-hand library of GPTs. Convert anything, file converter for images, audio, video, and documents. There's often cases where I need to have something that's in PNG format, which isn't being accepted to be uploaded somewhere else. I need to make it a JPEG. Very simple, nice utility. And then finally, Canva. We've done a whole show on Canva, but Canva has one of the most popular custom GPTs out there, and you can do a lot of the design anything, product promise that Canva has right in the custom GPT. There you go.
Yeah, I forgot you've talked about the framework one. I forgot how cool that one. You just explained it again. I was like, it's such a cool idea. I mean, if I had an idea, I don't really have. I've owned my own businesses and I've certainly gone through that iteration process or whatever. But to have a tool, I think would be really, really cool to do that. And in fact, Erica Rankin is somebody that I follow on LinkedIn. And Erica owned a business. She just recently stopped it. It was called Brodo. It was like a protein-based, healthier version of it was, in fact, it's in Canada. You couldn't even get it in the States. But she just made the difficult decision to shut down that business. It just wasn't going to get to that next level, despite her being in all sorts of different, superstores, supermarkets, or whatever. Anyway, Erica has been great. And so she is now pivoting her career. And now she has this other idea that she's doing. Don't need to get into it. But I was just saying to her that, like, to your point, Andy, like, oh, the difference between what you did last time for Brodo, Erica, which would have been several years ago, and now is AI. Because now you can build your cabinet of AI experts. Now you can build custom GPTs who think differently than you. And I cannot stress how valuable that is. It's impossible to get out of your own brain. We're all going to see the world through the eyes that we see the world through because of our past experiences, our collective experiences. And that can be a great thing. It can also be the reason that your business, you know, crashes and burns, because you can get into groupthink. My wife and I dealt with that when we had our online nutrition business. This is great. Yeah, this is going to be great. It's going to be great. Yeah, of course it's going to be great. The two of us in a room together, just bing, 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 bing. And you know, some of that stuff doesn't land with your audience because my wife and I saw it. We could see the value. Well, now what you can do with custom GPTs or chat GPT in general is say, hey, tell me what you see from this angle. What are you seeing when I say this? And for somebody who might be doing a framework like that, Andy, or who needs more eyeballs and mouths pointing back at them, not just ChatGPT custom GPTs, but ChatGPT in general or an LLM is a fantastic way to get those other areas of expertise that you would ultimately have a blind spot to. Not your fault, just where you're coming from, right? So I love that, Andy, because I just think like that, oh, that's so valuable to somebody who's trying to like work their way through a process and figure out if they have something that can launch, you know?
So a framework finder is actually part of my top 5 too. It's by Ethan Mollick, and it's literally called Framework Finder. And it gives you a variety of frameworks to pull from, right? So you give it a problem that you're having, and like it's pretty elaborate. I said grimoire. Also, I have a repetitive writing one for the show as well. Things that I write all the time. I Interview You to Find Content Ideas by Rob Lennon is basically like a very specific, you're going to write content. You all have heard me say that I sometimes just launch the voice app and say, I have an idea I want to talk about. Ask me questions. This is a more specific, going to create content and elicit real content ideas for you, which is I Interview You to Find Content Ideas. And then I love whimsical diagrams, kind of in the same thing. So it builds mind maps, it builds process and sequence diagrams. So you can dump a whole lot of information, or you can pull in something that you've written that has a whole lot of information, and this structures it visually. Right? We all know that AI and ChatGPT and the other chatbots are really good at taking unstructured data and putting it into a structure, but that generally means a text structure. And I prefer, it's much more helpful for me to be able to have a visual associated with it. Whimsical diagrams is also a free, open, not private GPT. Those are my 5.
Yeah, those are good. I'll run through my 5 really quick because, you know, so we make sure we get to everybody. I already mentioned about the sales. These are all, I didn't pick any from the store, although I do respect and love the grimoires and stuff like that. These are all ones I've built for me or for other people in one of those categories. So to mention about the sales, I've built many sales ones, from not only to help me book a meeting with, help me find lookalike leads, help me prepare for a call summary, help me do role playing as a salesperson, help me follow up from a discovery call and what that is. So those all kind of go together to me. Those are sales related custom GPTs. And of those, there's several. But the other ones that I really like are meeting summarizers, which they're built into tools like Apollo and other ones, and Zoom does them okay. I find that, to your point, Carl, I want something a little different. I want my meeting summarizers to be in this order. I have found that the success with those is to have it do an outline first, just like you would teach a child in school. Hey, outline your idea first, then come up with the main points, then give me the summary, then give me the action items. And when I do a meeting summarizer like that, I actually get really good results. So I've built one and iterated, to your point, Jimmy, over time on that one. One we haven't mentioned, but I will tell you is a huge area that businesses can take advantage of is onboarding. So onboarding is one of those repetitive tasks that's sort of a globally more repetitive task that's going to happen all the time. And we know this. We've all been onboarded, and we've probably also been part of an onboarding. It can make or break the next 3, 6, 9 months or success of an employee based on that onboarding. And so I always think onboarding starts well before the person starts their first day, right? So you could create custom GPT or a suite of custom GPTs that do the pre-first day stuff. You know, that's more of a checkbox. This is about our company. Andy, to your point, or like, I'm sorry, who was saying it? You can have a conversation. I guess what you were saying, Beth, with Grimoire, is a bit of a tutor, right? Ask us about the company. We'll tell you. It's built on that information, like you were saying, Andy, in the background. Then there's onboarding that I've built and customized that is more the sales side. But you could have onboarding that can take you on the sales side. We see it take people from a business from like 90 days down to 30 days. But that's not just sales. You could literally build custom GPTs for your business that aren't terribly complex. To your point, Andy, are built off of sort of background knowledge that's important and specific to your business to really help somebody who can't always, especially in a remote world or a hybrid world, I can't sit next to somebody at my desk anymore. I can't just sit there and go, now, what did you do next? Okay, that's interesting. What did you do? We could sit on a Zoom all day, I suppose, if I'm day one. But what about the times when that person has to go off and do their own job and they can't babysit me in the nicest way as a brand new employee? Oh, what if I had a custom GPT and my next order of operation was, hey, we already built this and it's here to help you. Ask it anything. And if it doesn't know the answer, notate that down on the side, or we'll look back at your feed and I will answer it for you. Also, that'll be great information for us to make sure how we can make the custom GPT better later. So onboarding is a huge area that a lot of people are not thinking about that could save a ton of time, help employees stay onboarded and stay with the company longer and be more successful, and also save a lot of ROI. I mean, increase ROI for sure. And then my last one would be, I think I've said 5, personal branding. Sort of in line with what other people have done. I've just found a really nice sweet spot of talking naturally into ChatGPT, and that I use a custom GPT in all my years of experience with LinkedIn and how to do personal branding on LinkedIn for corporations, because that we know that's how you build and actually do well on LinkedIn, is not through the company page, but through the individual employees. So we work really hard on building out personal branding strategies. And one of those ways is I use a custom GPT that helps take just ramblings like I'm doing sort of right now and makes that into a cohesive format that's better for distributing out on something like a LinkedIn. So that would be my other one, because I use it all the time. All my clients use it all the time. I've customized it for them in their brand voice as well. And it gets used hundreds of times a week at this point. So it's just a really, really good one. So that's what I have for mine. Carl, what about you?
It's actually only 2 that I really use on a regular basis, and one that we either highly encourage our clients to build, or really just one to get them going, or one that we use ourselves. It's really a business copilot. So this is literally what we tell businesses are, if you do not have a business copilot that has your mission, your vision, your values, your goals, your target audience, and what your business is about to do. Now you can tailor it to kind of the industry you're in, but really we've been using it to, whether it's build strategy, build invoices, how to do, use it as a kind of have conversations with it for a new prospect. Really, it's about trying to focus our business and get our business lens on our specific business problems. So think of it as a mentor, advisor, investor, whatever you need as your business copilot, uploaded with the specifics on your business, trained, for custom GPTs, you can actually train it on a website. You can use a scraper like Gobblebot, scrape your business website, turn it into a JSON or an MD file. And then now you have a file that it can always refer to based on your website if you don't have any documents specifically. So you can do some of that. So that's what we tell any of our clients. But mind you, our clients are medium-sized business, so not the big tech enterprises. But for them, it's an easy use case, because then, what we find is once you start getting to very specifics, again, back to the individualized problem. But if they have a business copilot, they can actually ask it anything against the business itself, and then have that conversation. What we find, we use it quite a bit, but then our clients find it's like, hey, this is amazing, because it's not there to, yes, you can use it to write. And what we tell people is, as you scale, you can have one for marketing, you can have one accounting, you can have one for HR, like just have it. And we're kind of setting the foundation, because we know that agentic features will be coming to it. you'll be, GPT-4, like 4.0, the hear and see portions will be coming to it. So you're essentially setting up a foundation for this AI employee that's connected. Again, now it's connected to your data to be able to do stuff for you. So how do we get businesses and prospects to, especially ones that are not in the AI bubble, ones that are just kind of getting going, to have those conversations, use it as an advisor, use it. And then as those features come in piece by piece by piece, as they grow more comfortable, then they can start using the more advanced use cases like, hey, now I can make you write an email for me based on this, or now I can make you actually accomplish goals, because I think that's like the next level of what we're looking at is AI agents to accomplish goals for you. But for people to get there, they have to understand how to use it. And so this is one of the easiest ways for, I believe, really any business should have this as a starting point to have those conversations with, and even get it to do stuff for you.
Yeah, I love that. That you brought up a great point too, Carl, or I should say, you made me think of a great thing, which is that a lot of people don't realize that you have the function within any custom GPT or just in a general chat. And so, Carl, what you were just saying is a perfect example of that. You may have an employee who starts with the general knowledge, right, of the thing. You could actually build it into the custom GPT instructions to say to the user, again, this is back to that end user experience. Hey, this would be a great time to call such and such custom GPT to pick up the ball and run with it, which is an easy way to do it. So there's times where you start broad and you can narrow down into deeply niche custom GPTs that only serve one function ever, but you can do it in a way where you can use the function, say at whatever the name of the custom GPT is, and then continue that conversation. And what's great about that is it will take what was resulted out of the initial conversation using the other custom GPT and continue that conversation down. We use this all the time. I use it all the time because you can start broad and get narrow, which is great because that works a lot better, like you're saying, Carl, for more people who do more individualized functions, because maybe everybody is going to use the master business custom GPT every single day, but maybe only 3 people are going to use the HR one. But that's okay, because you could start here broad and come down narrow to your individual use case, and it can still funnel people to where they need to be to get the right help or to take away that repetitive process or whatever it is. So just wanted to bring that up because it's a great use case for that, what you're saying on it. Did we hit everybody's? I know, Andy, you said, I think Beth, Jimmy, did you hit your 5? I know there was sort of DOS Daily AI Show related.
Yeah, for the most part. There's just a couple more for other projects that I'm working on. And this is where, the sky's the limit in ideas for custom GPTs. So I use custom GPTs a lot of times to test out the AI or the generative AI component for a larger system. So I created a comparing and contrasting tool for document processing, things like that, and also a development helper, if you will, for patents and trade secrets and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully everybody listens. But by the way, did we get everybody's? Did we miss anybody? Everybody says yeah. Okay. Hopefully, if you're listening to this as we're wrapping up, what I always say is, like, look, you may not have heard the specific use case, or like Carl's saying, like, oh, I don't know, that wouldn't work specifically from business, but hopefully you heard a couple ideas on the show that lit a light bulb or sparked a light bulb to say, oh, if they can build that, then I can build this, because it's very similar. So you'll make me want to build stuff. Exactly.
Jen says yes.
Want to build stuff, not necessarily for business, but still very cool. Yeah, exactly, Jen. By the way, there's tons of custom GPTs that aren't necessarily business related, that are just about, getting through life and stuff like that. So hopefully this, our intent of this show is to inspire people. Really, maybe you heard the perfect use case, but if you didn't, maybe you heard something that's, next to it, adjacent to it, and will inspire you to go try. And again, you do not need to know coding or how to build one or anything. There's lots of resources online. You can certainly reach out to any of us for help and assistance and guidance with it. We can help you as well. But outside of that, you can kind of just get in there and go play. and get inspired and see if you can build one that takes, you know, some one repetitive task off your plate. Start there, start small, and see where you can go. It's addictive, and you'll go far with it, but try to get that easy win first. Okay, we'll wrap it up. What we have coming up the rest of this week is tomorrow we're going to be talking about, you know, where digital biology is going and how AI is having such a huge impact to it. Jensen Huang and other articles are coming out about DNA and medical. So that's all coming up tomorrow. Wednesday, we have the news. Thursday, we're going to be diving into the, I forgot the name of it. Sorry, I'm going to pull it up a screen. Pull it up. The situational awareness paper that we were actually referencing last week. That's by a gentleman who used to work at OpenAI, and we'll get into all of that and deep dive into it. It's a really, really interesting 165-page paper. So we will save you from reading all that, and we will give you the highlights of what we think of that. That's on Thursday. And on Friday, it's our 2-week wrap-up show that we do every other Friday, where we will be maybe coming back to this topic as well as several others, and just, you know, adding more depth into it. Things that have happened since the show was live, all that good stuff, that will be on Friday. So that's it, guys. Have a great week. Don't forget to go out to thedailyashow.com. Our second newsletter just went out this Sunday. It's got like an 80% open rate. So hopefully that means people are really enjoying it. So if you want to see what we're doing in the newsletter, go to thedailyashow.com and you can sign up there. Lots of goodies in there that you cannot get on the live show. That's kind of the point of it. So go check it out if you like. That's it. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Till then, bye.
Oh.